Hello and welcome to my channel. This week's video is a Christmas collaboration with Mini Scenes GB and Crafty YouTubers United, a glitter stained glass effect poinsettia. Okay, a while back I made a stained glass or a faux stained glass robin using just UV resin. And I really like the stained glass effect, but I can't be doing with cutting glass and I just don't need another hobby. So I want to get that look, and this time I'm going to use some wire. I'm going to create my own bezels, if you like. So I'm making some petal shapes and I'm hoping to use them to make a poinsettia. I got this wire off of Amazon and I will link it in the description box below if I can find it again. I think it's for armatures. It certainly says it was for jewellery, but I think it's very bendable. I think it was 3mm thick, and I thought I was buying a flat wire, but this is definitely completely round. So I'm just going to see if I can use this to create some petal shapes. So I'm just roughly folding it in half just to get, I want them to be similar size, and I didn't measure before I made them. So I've just used some snips to cut it. And I'm bending it in half, trying to get a point, and that's not easy to do. It's not that bendable. It did come in different sizes, and I feel that you would probably have better luck. It doesn't really need to be this thick, I don't think. So I'm just basically using my fingers to make a rough petalish shape. And then I'm going to offer that up to there, and I do want them to be roughly the same size. It doesn't have to be perfectly the same size, and they don't need to be the same shape either. So I'm just going to trim off this excess. Cut that off and cut that off. So I want to make sure that they do touch, and then I'm just going to lay them flat and push down on them. I really want them to stay flat, and obviously where I've been bending them, they got a little warped. Okay, that should be enough for now. So my next step is to take some bezel tape, and I'm just going to cut a little bit off of that. Actually, I'm going to stick these on first so that I fold that over a little bit so that I know how much I can get. Now I'm pushing them down, trying not to get my fingers in this center portion because that will show up on your resin. I do want to make sure that they're flat. That's one. See if I can fit these all on. Again, make sure that that's flat as possible. And I'm going to turn it over in a minute and make sure that they are stuck. Can I get that in there? Oh, maybe. Let's see if I can get that off. Maneuver it a bit better. Okay, I think that will be fine. Just cut the tape off, and I'm just going to fold the end over so that I've got something to hold on to that isn't sticky. Right, so I'm going to flip those, not on there because there's a sticky. Try and make sure your mat's clean. And then I'm going to make sure that they are stuck completely on the back of the bezels. Oh, I put my finger in there, so that wasn't clever. Right. So my next step is going to be to use some resin. I'm going to be using some UV resin. Just move that out of the way for a minute. And I'm going to be using some red pigment. This is by J. Diction. It's just pigment for resin. Let me tidy up a little bit here. Now I'm going to do this in a slightly different way. So I'm going to put some gloves on and get myself all masked up, and then I will be back ready to pour the resin. I'm going to start by laying down a coat of just the clear resin, and I'm going to put some in each of them. Just a thin coat. I'm going to add multiple layers to this. And now I'll just use a stick from a micro brush, and I'll make sure that the resin touches the bezel all the way around. And I'm going to pay special attention to the open end. I want to make sure that that is completely coated with the resin. I'm trying to do it quite slowly so that I don't introduce any bubbles, but I just want to make sure that there are no gaps and it isn't leaking out of the sides at the moment, because I can always clean it up if it is and then start again. Looks good. So now I'm going to put some of the resin pigment just onto my mold, and I'm going to pick that up, and then I'm going to add that in a swirling motion into this resin. Hopefully this will be able to create sort of streaks and make it look a little bit more like natural glass. So I'm just going to speed that up and you can see what happens. But once I've done that, I will put it under my UV lamp.
In the corner of the room they catch my eye. Red velvet flames under a winter sky. Golden centers like the stars they gleam. They light the dark with a wondrous beam. Oh, the season shifts, the world turns slow, but these fiery blooms, they steal the show. Poinsettia glow, red velvet dreams, a burst of life in icy seas. Bright gold hearts, they light the way. They make the coldest night feel like day. Poinsettia glow, oh, oh, don't fade away. Framed in frost by the window pane, their quiet beauty drives away the pain. Through silent nights.
So I've just got a few bubbles and I'm using my torch just to get rid of those. And then I can make sure that everything is nice and smooth, and I'll cure it. Once they were set, I needed to take them off of the bezel tape. And they were still a little warm, but they were solid. So I started to peel them off of the tape, and I noticed that it was leaving residue on the back. Now, I got this tape from Temu, so I don't know whether it speaks to the quality of the tape or if bezel tapes do that all the time. I don't know. I've seen other people struggle with it. So I will try and use a little bit of packing tape just to pull that off. I don't really want to put any alcohol on the back of the piece, but I am going to cover them anyway with a glitter, so anything that's left will get covered. If anyone can recommend a really good bezel tape or a way of getting the residue off the back, can you leave that in the comments below? I'd be really interested, and I'm sure somebody else would as well. So I've got my 3 pieces and I need 5, so I'm going to just clean this little dot of red off of here. Then I can lay them out and see what it looks like. I'm just wiping it off with a baby wipe. And then I can lay out my petals and see how they fit together. And I want 5 for this layer, so I need to make 2 more, but I think I'm going to use something different this time. Okay, so I'm trying again, and this time I'm using some packing tape. And what I totally forgot to do on the previous one was mix just a small blob of resin with my pigment before I put it in, which is why I ended up with the rippling, because I was putting in raw pigment and that was a little too strong for the UV. So I've just put a blob of the resin and mixed it with my tiny blob of pigment, and now I'm picking that up and I am spreading that into the rest of the UV resin, and this gives me a nice marbled effect, which I think looks, you know, it looks like handmade stained glass. It's kind of the look I'm wanting. So I'm just trying to pick up the last pieces of colour, because I do want colour all the way to the tip. And then I need to go ahead and cure that. Okay, so I finished curing those. I did 2 layers. Let me see if I can just get the packing tape off. And I've got some transfer of stickiness with that as well. That's okay. I do have a sticky remover, so I'll try that in a minute. But this was just literally, you know, parcel tape, so it seems to have worked pretty well. No need for any special bezel tape if you don't have any. So I'm just getting this off the back. And now I have my 5 large pieces. Let me just move that out the way for a minute. So I need to make a few more things. I need some green leaves, and I'm also making, and I've got 2 done already and 1 here that I'm about to do, 3 more little ones. So I need to do 3 of those. To fill those spaces and the green leaves. So once that's all done, I will be back and I can show you how I'm going to put it all together. I tried to get the residue off the back of my pieces and I had some success, but it is still marked. So I'm going to use some of this glitter. I'm going to cover the back because it is still a little bit sticky. I've got some red resin and I'm just adding some of the glitter. It's Ultrafine Glitter. It's a generic brand. I don't know where I got it from. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of the UV resin and mix that together. And then I will coat the back of the pieces and then cure them. And obviously that's going to cover up any of the sticky residue and hide it and make it less sticky. And when I say it's sticky, it is cured. It's literally just the remnants of the tape that is sticky. So these are my smaller inner petals and they're all done now. And I quite like them. I think they're pretty. Unfortunately, I've lost my swirly effect on the front, but that's okay. I can see the glitter through them and they are slightly more opaque rather than translucent, which is good because I don't want to be able to see too much of the other petals through them when I lay them on top. So I'm going to set these aside, and I need to make my leaves, which I will do. I've already shaped them, you can just see them there, and they're slightly less regular and a bit larger than the other petals. I decided not to use my tape, packing tape, because it tore and left pieces behind. So I'm going to mix some of this green glitter and this Adirondack Clover alcohol ink together. I already did some, I just need to add a little bit more. So I'll add that to my UV resin, and you can see I've already filled some of them. So I'll carry on filling them up and then cure it. Alright, they had 2 layers of the green glitter on the top, and I've taken them off of the tape, and you can see there are some of them do have some of the residue on the back. So I am going to give them a clear coat now. Doesn't really need any more glitter, just the clear coat will cover up that stickiness. So just spread that out evenly and cure that. I've just arranged the main petals on top of the mould, and it's just sitting directly on the mould, and I've put them in the position that I like. So now I'm going to try and fit in the green leaves and just butt them up to the edges. I need to make sure that it is in contact as much as possible and that there aren't any gaps, because I'm going to use some UV resin to fill those gaps and try and bond everything together. So I quite like that shape, that looks good. So I'm taking my UV resin and I'm going to fill in the gaps, and I'm trying not to put too much in. I just want to put enough to seal it, and hopefully it won't flood out through the bottom. They have stuck quite well to the mould, which is fantastic. So I'm hoping it provides enough of a seal that I can bond them all together and not have it all flood outside of this shape. I don't mind if it goes over the top here, because we're going to cover that with another layer. So I'm just going to pop that under my lamp. Right, that's the first bit done. So now I'm going to fill in any of the gaps to make it solid so that it has a lot of extra support. This is going to hang up and I don't want it to fall to pieces. So I'll just fill in those areas, and then I'm going to cure this layer again before I put the next petals on. I'm just arranging the petals on top in the positions that I like, trying to hide as much of the joins as I can. And I think that's pretty good. I quite like that. So I need to bind these together, but if I put the UV resin underneath, then the light won't get through. So I'm not going to use that to stick them on. I will use some B7000 glue, and that will hold them in place, and then I can add the UV resin on the top, and that where it will get the light and it will be able to be cured. That will hold the glue in place, or hold the pieces in place until the glue has a chance to set. So I'm just going to apply the glue and stick these down. I'm applying a generous amount on the back because they're not flat, so I do want it to actually run down and stick all the pieces together. Last piece to do. You can see I've put quite a lot on there. And once I've put it in place, I'm going to leave these just to sit for a while before I come back and put the UV resin on top. Okay, that's been sitting for about 10 minutes, and I'm just going to put some of the UV resin in between the petals and just over the top in the center. Just want to bind them together. I don't want to put too much because I want it to be flat. I'm going to add some gems on top. So I'm going to pop that again under the lamp. That's finished curing, so I'm going to pull it off of the mould. I'll just bend the mould back to release it, and that's pretty good. I didn't get too much of a leak on the back. It hasn't come outside of the petals, and I am happy with that. So poinsettias need some, I don't know what they are, stamens, I guess, in the middle. So I'm going to use some of these little gems. They are silver-backed, flat-back gems, and I'll stick them with the B7000. So I'm going to put a blob in the middle and along the petals, and then I will use some tweezers to arrange the gems in place. Try and squeeze a last one in there, and I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to leave those two set, and I'm going to attach some bails or rings to put a chain on here. So I'll be back when this is dry. Alright, so that's now a completely solid piece, and all that's left for me to do is to attach some. I'm going to use these bails, and I'm just going to attach them behind here and here, and I know you can see them through the front. I'm just wondering actually if I maybe attach it there, which is a little bit more solid. You're still going to be able to see it behind there, but I did try to solder some wire jump rings there, but there's something about this particular wire here, this thick wire, I don't know if the resin is on the outside, it doesn't look like it, but it would not work. I could not get the solder to attach. So I'm just going to use these bails, and I'm going to attach them now with some B7000 glue, and I will add a little bit of UV just around the edges to hold it in place until it goes off. So I'm just going to attach that one, and I'll let that sit. I'm just wondering if it's better if I flip this over and do it so that I can see what's going on. Try and get it as straight as possible. There's a lot of glue there, but that's okay. So I've got that in place, and I'm going to use my torch and the UV resin just to hold this down. So I'm just going to put a tiny bit just around one side. Oops. Oh my goodness me. And I'm just going to make sure that that actually holds that in place. And then the glue will set over 24 hours. And hopefully that will be strong enough for me to put some wire, or I think I might use a chain, and then I can hang that in my window. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same to the other one, and then I will attach a chain. So I'll be back when that's ready. Okay, so I wanted the chain to go here, and I didn't have one, so I'm just making one. And you make that the same way that you make your jump rings. I've literally just wound some thin wire into a spiral, and I just wound it round. I had this tube, I think it's like an old straw or something. So I've just wound it round that. And now I am cutting my jump rings. And I think my chain's probably almost long enough. So I'm just going to cut 2 more little rings. This is quite a strong wire, so there's one, 2, and that should be enough now to join my chain. And to make the chain, you just literally add your rings together in a line. And as I say, I think this might be long enough, so I'm just going to add my last jump rings and pass them through the bales. Let's hook that on and join that together. And yeah, I think that's probably long enough. And that is ready to be hung up. So thank you very much for watching. This has been a part of a Christmas collaboration with Mini Scenes GB and Crafty YouTubers United. I'll leave the link to the playlist in the description box below. Please check it out. People work pretty hard to make some fantastic stuff, and it's all free to subscribe to our channels, so we would love it if you would. And give us some love by giving us a thumbs up, a comment. I'm going to put some photos up for you to have a look at and show you what I did with it. So here it is hanging up. I just hung it on my wardrobe so you can see it close up. I love the glitter sparkle. I decided to put some fairy lights behind it so that you can get the full stained glass effect, and I love it. Thank you so much for watching. Merry Christmas. Bye.